Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview sponsored by Infostar IT Solutions. I'm Mark Owen, editor and owner of Punchline Gloucester today. And today, my special guest is Lucien Butler. He's a co founder and owner of Cheltenham based business Fitbakes. Hi, Julian. Well, you couldn't tell, could you? Get a bigger sign there. So, can you
Exactly.
tell us, please, sir? Can you tell us all about Fitbakes? How long it's been
Yes,
going? Who it's
absolutely. So Fitbakes is a Cheltenham-based Gloucestershire born and bred brand. We literally started it from our kitchen table in 2018-19 with my lovely wife Ella, and we originally founded the idea on trying to find a solution to high fat products like cakes and snacks. So we developed the recipe. I should say my wife developed the recipe, but and from home, and then we started building a kind of line, a range of healthier cake products. And the reason we did that is because there was a bit of a gap. We realized that if we could make and reformulate these type of kind of typically unhealthy products, then there must be a market for it. And that's what I kind of said to Ella was like, look, if we can create this, I've been around the nutrition world for about 20, 25 years. I'm absolutely convinced that there's going to be a market for it. So she took a flyer on me, really, because I had to sell it at the end of the day. And luckily we did. And the first year we did, I think our first year sales, we were reviewing it the other day, we did 16,000, I think, in the first 3 months of our uh, in business, all from kitchen table from home, Hammer and Royal Mail coming and picking up the products and sending them out. And then we have pretty much doubled every year, gone from that. We're going 100% year on year. We eventually had to move out of move the manufacturing premises from our kitchen table out. We had to find co-manufacturers, and that's essentially where we're at now. In 2025, we have built up to a team of 10 that are dotted around the country in various places, a great team of people that all support us. And we have gone from an original cake, healthier cake product into a whole kind of smorgasbord now of different snacking options that are both sweet and savory, but they're all designed to be low carb, and to help people who are monitoring in some way their glucose control. So anybody who's traditionally reached for a kind of high carb, high sugar product as a snack, whether that's a cake or a cookie or a crunch bar on your sweet side, going to your savory side. So we've now got into wraps, wholemeal wraps, and bread that are all protein rich and fiber rich. Our sort of USP, if you like, is that we make a range of products that traditionally would be a treat and are usually a kind of very sugar spiky products that you can enjoy without the blood sugar spikes. That's basically what we're about. And we are now growing at a quite a meteoric rate. I mean, we looking at the numbers. And we can see us now, certainly by the end of the decade. Our goal is to ensure that Fitbakes is literally in a lot of most kitchen cupboards around the country. And we can see sales of certainly upwards of 20 to 30 million that we can track if we continue along the same route that we're doing. And there's a reason for that. It's because the market is there. There is simply nobody offering the kind of solutions that we offer. And we have a huge advantage because we've been doing it now for many years. And, the protein market has kind of been hammered. There's a lot of protein bars out there. And we've kind of addressed the market that traditionally has not been, listened to. And we kind of know why now because it's very difficult to do. And that's where we can see the growth coming because we've worked with an amazing team of nutritionists and food scientists to develop these products. And that's something that we've got as our part of our kind of trademark, if you like, moving forward. And
You,
that's
you sold a, you, sorry to stop you there. You sold around 4 million, I believe, last year.
oh
That was
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
figures that we
yeah,
took.
yeah. It's about three,
And
four, right?
And you got into the major supermarkets as well. Which supermarkets are you currently in?
Yeah, so we are now in Tesco, Waitrose, Ocado, Holland and Barrett is just launching as well this year. Morrison's, and we're in continual conversations with Tesco and Sainsbury's as well. In fact, Sainsbury's was last week. Tesco obviously is a huge main estate. You've got different areas there. So Sainsbury's as well. So eventually, over time, a lot of these grocers will be picking it up. It is very much a newer journey for a lot of these categories. So, you don't now go into the supermarket and see a low carb area, but it is coming. It's happening in America. We see it now. The word keto, for example, is quite prominent now. So we see that area growing, and we've just been basically planning for that trend to hit and to bite, and we can now see it, and that's why the justification is there for the growth that we see. A very good mentor of mine years ago told me that, when you're trying to create a snack brand or a food brand and you're selling something for £1 an item, for you to get to £1 million revenue, you've created an impact because you've effectively got, nearly 1 million people in, buying something every single week. Our figures on Amazon, for example, are huge. We've got a subscription base there running for hundreds of thousands. So we know the repeat purchase rate is there. We know that when the products hit the right target market, there is a huge demand for it. So when you're growing a business, what do? You either basically grow more SKUs and more products, or you grow more markets. And our goal at the moment is to essentially focus and capitalize on the UK market. That's the biggest opportunity for us right now. And then we can address other markets later. Thankfully for us, the US is not a target market really. There's a lot of barriers anyway. I'm sure we're about to find out a few more tonight. But it's not, it's not an area for us really. There's a big enough market here, and there's a big enough market here in in Europe as well, which hopefully, fingers crossed, if we can reach a more frictionless trade agreement, then we can benefit from that as well.
I'm really interested. How did you take it from the kitchen table to upscale it to
Yeah,
get into the supermarkets? How did you do that bit? Because that
that,
must
that's
be really difficult.
That's a really good question, Mark. And actually, that is the most difficult part because when you are reaching out to co-manufacturers, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation because they want you to have a minimum volume that they need in order to fulfill their order criteria. But you don't have it when you're starting. So you are literally having to kind of, do a really good sales pitch. I remember going to meeting a lot of these factory owners and just literally with a begging bowl and saying, look, we think we've got something that works. And actually, at this moment, I need to shout out to Growth Hub, which are a Gloucestershire-based support group, of which are where we found our current and past chairwoman, Di Savory. Big shout out to Di as well and the Black Cedar team. They helped us massively because they were able to add a bit of credibility to us. And in fact, when Ella went to a factory in the beginning, one of the representatives from Growth Hub came along to add a kind of credibility. So I think the question is, you've just got to try every angle. But I don't believe there's any substitution for passion and belief. And really, you don't need to oversell the opportunity, but certainly a lot of convincing is there to say, look, our demand will be there. And it truly was. The first production run we did with cakes, we were just doubling every single month. And we're now into a situation where we've got 2 or 3 different co-manufacturing facilities now.
What do you guys sit down and think, right, I'm going to go for a different recipe now? We sort of hit the
Yeah,
maximum sales that we
yeah,
have. Do you and Ellen sit down, your management team, go, right, okay, we need a different fit bar, we need a different
correct.
flavor. If I go back to the screen and we share it again with your mix of products here, have you got that? Can you see the mix there?
Yes,
So
in the range. So that's a really good intro actually, Mark, because we've had to pivot along the years. Don't like using that phrase pivot, but it is what it is. We had to react proactively to the market and sweet. We were always looking at the sweet side, so we did the cakes. The cakes offer, a solution. It was a way for us to build the brand awareness. We then went into crunch bars because this is a great way to kind of address a different area of the protein market sector, which have been, quite heavily hit. We then developed a kind of cake mix, so people wanted to do that at home. And then a couple of years ago, we realized that we're not addressing the savory side. So we then went into developing the bread and the wraps. And we've now also added on a cookie, and we're getting into some supplements as well. But this is really anything that we do is backed up with, science, because you have to have that kind of credibility there in terms of, look, will your products spike blood sugar or won't they? And that's our kind of biggest claim, really, is that, any of our products will not impact your blood sugar. That's as simple as that. So when we work these products out, yes, we have to get advice. We work with, Ella, my wife, is a qualified nutritionist as well. And has a degree from Stanford in America, and she has worked very cleverly and worked with her tutors on understanding what needs to be in a food product in order for it not to impact, blood sugars and things like that. So this is a side angle, by the way. The reality is it's a great tasting product. These are staple products that you can have, for either, make your sandwiches or have a nice wrap, but also if you want a nice, a nice treat in the evening. You're going to have something that you can go to bed with knowing that your blood sugar isn't spiking while you're asleep. So it's a combination of art meeting science. Let's put it that way. We're not making ridiculous claims here. We're just saying that, look, you can literally kind of have your cake and eat it. You can have your bake and eat it in a way. You can have your fun stuff, but you're not going to be feeling the carb effect that you would usually have. So that's where we see the growth. That's where we see the opportunity.
I mean, I see the bread product. I was quite surprised that the bread was in there.
Yeah.
Only because to manufacture bread and you're going against huge
Yeah.
competition, same as the wraps. I mean,
Yeah.
it's where do you manufacture that? I mean, maybe you can't tell us, but
Yeah, I can't. I will see. That's certainly a kind of a signed and sealed, agreement. But yeah, I mean that again, it wasn't easy. The kind of guys that we co-manufacturers are global producers, frankly. So we've had to kind of go in the back door there a little bit, and work with people, and again, it's making your passion becomes something that becomes your purpose, so people see it. I mean, I remember the meeting that we had with 2 or 3 different global factories. They were like, you're mad, why are you doing this? Bread has been in the market for decades, for years, for centuries. Why are you trying to reformulate that? And I said, trust us, there's an answer for this. And actually now traditionally bread is in decline. If you speak to any buyers, they're like, bread is in decline, you need to reformulate. So again, what's our reason for our growth? It's because we're ahead of the curve. We've already got the solution. And we're seeing it in our customer numbers, because our customer numbers are going off the scale. So we know that privately people are searching this out. So the next step for a brand is to go from people searching it out to actually walking down in their supermarkets. The emails we get every day from customers, where can I find you outside of Amazon or your website? Where? And that's the conversation we have to have with buyers the whole time. Is say, look, you've got to stock us, because people are buying it and we have the stats. And I think that's where grocery as a kind of FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, this is where the opportunities lie now, is that if you've proven yourself kind of online and not, in a pedestrian way within the supermarkets, you are then offering buyers and the public an opportunity to go, oh, actually, I've seen this brand. And it happens a lot. I was watching, I'm a big golf nut, which I gather you are as well, Mark.
yeah, yeah.
And I do practice probably far more than I should. I'm going to say that. But I'm on a goal to get down to scratch right now. And I go to a lot of golf tournaments, and literally, no word of a lie, 2 years ago, I was in a tournament, had my Fitbakes top on. I was watching the tournament, watching Rory tee off, and then somebody patted me on the shoulder and said, Fitbakes. So I love those products, absolutely love them. So my wife goes into Waitrose in London, and she buys the whole lot off the shelf. And I keep saying to her, what on earth? Are you on drugs or something? What's happening? She said, no, she just loves them. So it's nice to get that feedback because you think, crikey, that was an idea we had from the kitchen table, and this thing is already starting to reach a lot of people out in the public, and it's nice to get that recognition sometimes, I have to say.
Oh, congratulations! I'm really looking forward.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but I should have tried it before the show. Anyway, I've got to ask you about what's your sort of biggest mistake, or something perhaps that you would have done differently? Because you've been on this journey. How long has it taken you
Well, it's
so
been,
far?
yeah, we're sort of seventh year now, sixth or seventh year. So we're toying with 2018, first started products 20, yeah, I suppose what are we now, 6, 7 years? I think the biggest mistake sometimes is trusting, um, give selling, believing that your idea can be in the hands of somebody else. So we had one monumental moment where we were running out of cash fast because when any company grows quickly, your capital allocation is under a lot of stress. You're continually burning cash because you're buying stock, you're buying packaging, you're promotional marketing quite often. And we believe that one particular investor was going to go with us. And we were 99% there. And we put all our hopes and our dreams of the future of the business with this one guy. And he bailed on us. I'll never forget it
Well,
all. We both collapsed. Ella, we were just on the floor going, what the hell do we do now? So we realized in that moment that you've got to have lots of different options. We thought we'd have the golden egg with this one particular person. As it turns out, it was the best thing that ever happened to us. And I go again, that sounds trite because we're sitting here talking about, but actually it was because it made us realize that you can't sell your dream onto somebody else and rely on them to fulfill it. It's down to you. So how do we ensure that doesn't happen again? You make sure that you have different options. So now if we ever do a funding round, we're approaching two or three different people, and we then have options. They may all say no, in which case we go and find another three. But the point is, you're not left with one. And
yeah.
that's the biggest mistake, because that very nearly folded the business. At that point we were pretty tired, and we nearly threw in the towel, really. So that was a turning point, definitely.
How does it work with you as a couple? Because obviously, let's be honest, you've got a dynamics you're working with your partner, your
Yeah,
partner every day.
yeah,
It's tough. I'll be honest. I love my wife. I couldn't work with her. I couldn't. She'd kill me.
yeah.
Or she'd be sorry. She'd be chief exec, and I'd be sweeping out the
Well,
warehouse or something.
funny enough, my wife she is the CEO. I am the COO, so that's how we work together. No, and the reason we split that is she's incredibly good with, her executive skills are phenomenal. She's ex-Vodafone, senior management for 25, 30 years. She's, double first Magna Cum. She's a very, very bright lady, and she does a lot of the executive work. So it was a decision that us and the board took a long time ago, is that she needs to be, on top of operations. I can look after the other side, so I do a lot of the supply chain management, dealing with the people, dealing with investors. Look at the big picture. Where is the company going? Dealing with the board. So we work well like that. But we have decided over a few times we've had confrontations that it's better we meet twice a week officially for business. We sit down, we talk about stuff, we have an agenda. But the rest of the time we work separately. Of course we talk on the phone. We chat on WhatsApp the whole time. We're very much connected, but it's a theme that runs through the whole team. And I think we're not alone. I think there's many companies that are able to operate at this level that effectively have 10 or 12 people on the payroll in some form or other that are either digital nomads, so are working in other parts of the world, or they are literally working from home. And quite frankly, technology has made that possible, and it's also very cost effective. That's the other thing. We have our moments, obviously, and she is from Brazil. She's from Rio, so she's Latin American. So trust me, there are times that I realize that I need to just be on the golf course, basically, and not be here. So that's another reason for playing golf.
I mean, it interests me. So you don't have a big, massive warehouse there in Cheltenham, then, with all
Well,
your
funny
products,
enough,
or
we
do you have
do,
an
but it's
office? Or
yeah, we do. We have a huge one in Staverton that stocks all our stock, but we are part of a company called Fulfillment Warehouse, I'll give a shout out to those guys. They've been absolutely amazing. Again, they took a punt on us in the beginning. And Sarah and the team there are absolutely unbelievable. And they've stuck with us. So yeah, but effectively that's our warehouse there. But they've got obviously lots of other companies there to deal with. But they do all our fulfillment. Yeah.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that. Well, I've got to go back to your sort of beginnings, really, if that's okay. So, where are you from originally, Lucian? Are you from
So,
Gloucester and Cheltenham?
yeah, no. So originally I'm from Bucks. So I was born in Aylesbury. And Dad had was at school in a school up in Fleetwood in Lancashire, a school called Rossall. Shout out to Rossall. So I was sent off because he went there, and his father went there, and his father went there, and his father went there. I was sent off at the age of 7, came back at the age of 18, pretty much. And yeah, that's kind of where I was at school. And then after that, I kind of traveled for about 12 years really, working in various things, working in property, working in recruitment. I kind of just always wanted to find my own way, really. But I've always been definitely not an employee type, put it that way. I've definitely wanted to always branch out. I'm a bit of a black sheep in that regard. It's
You're obviously a fantastic salesman. Where did you cut your teeth doing that? Or was it just a
that
sort of natural ability?
So yeah, so when I was at university, Dad had a bless him, he died last year sadly, but he was a great figure to me in terms of what I could and should be doing. And one of the lessons he taught me straight away was after school, he said, you're on your own. So I had to then earn money in some way. So what I used to do is I did pools collecting while I was at university, collecting the pools money. Do you remember those little woods and
Yeah,
Vernon?
yeah, yeah.
I then sold aftershaves door to door. I did insurance door to door, but it allowed me to earn enough money to buy my motorbike, which is my only form of transport then, because I'd failed my driving test 3 times. So that got me out and about. And yeah, I had to learn quick. And then I got into then sales roles as a result of that in property. And then I set up a recruitment business in the 90s, worked with James Kahn, funny enough, on Dragon's Den years ago. He took a punt on me when I was first starting out in 1995, I think it was for. And yeah, so it's always been sales and business development. I'm definitely somebody that kind of knocks down the door as opposed to sit there and wait for it to be open. I think that's where Ellen and I have worked quite well. We're very yin and yang like that. So
Well, we're just going to bring this other photographs up. And this is you
oh my
having a
God,
fag
yeah.
on the drums and
On
stuff.
the job
So
smoking. What's look like? I'm smoking a cigarette then as well. Oh my God, those were the days, weren't they?
that takes a lot of skill and a lot of youth to
It was actually.
to play the
So
drums and smoke at the same time.
yeah, this photo is actually really important to me because it was a part of my life that this was at school. We had the equivalent of the X Factor in 1985, which was something called TSB Rot School. You sent in your demo tape. If you did well enough, you got to the regional finals. And I managed that. I basically got that band together, managed it. We did 3 demos on a tape, which I've still got, which my 3 kids I've made them listen to time and time again over the years. And I must put it on digital actually. And anyway, we put the tape in, we got a call back, and I ended up drumming in Manchester with the band in front of Timmy Mallet, if you remember him. He was a Manchester Piccadilly DJ. And the
Yeah.
judges were Roger Taylor from Queen and Joan Armatrading. And we got to the
Wow.
regional finals, and then the next part was to get on the finals. And Timmy Mallet, bless him, we were behind stage, and the first thing he said to us, he said, "Well, I've got good news and bad news. So which do you want first?" I said, "Go on, then, give us good news." He said, "Well, the good news is you're on first, which is great because that always gives you a good chance to impact." He said, "But the bad news is you went to private school and nobody else did, so you got no chance of getting through." And that was literally before we got on stage. So this photo just reminds me of that wonderful time when you suddenly start to realize that you've got your whole life ahead of you. You're able to be a bit free, and we gave it a go. And Joan Armatrading, she said to us at the end, she said she really liked it. Just need to work on a few things, but She liked our style. That was it. So I'll take that one to my grave. Yeah,
You can't that's not too bad, is it? That's not too bad
exactly.
accolade during I'm a trainer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great shot. Well, we're kind of running out of time already, Lucien, would you believe? So
Whiz is
before I
gone.
come to your top three business tips, before I come to your top three business tips, I always like to ask my guests, so what is the latest book or film or CD they've listened to. So I'm going to ask you now, what's the last book you've read?
Well, funny enough, we spoke about this just before we came on air. Actually, it's Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. Absolutely brilliant. Sunday Times journalist who has interviewed lots of different people, and come up with some great ideas and tips. So I'd recommend anybody to read that. Certainly, if you're thinking about thinking outside of the box in terms of what should you be doing, when you're coming up with an idea. I mean, that's the crucial part. You've got to think differently, really. I think that's the thing, which is where reading. The more you learn, the more you earn, right? I mean, that's kind of the theory. Knowledge
Yeah,
is power. Knowledge is power. There's no question about it. So, no, I'm a big reader. I also love my audiobooks. Absolutely love them. I think your car should be a mobile university, basically. Why sit there and listen to news? You should be listening to information that feeds you and feeds your soul in a way that allows you to take on the world. Because let's be honest, it's a tough place, isn't it? And people want to have a go at you the whole time. So
yeah.
uh,
And I tell you what, running a business has never been tougher. We got through recessions, we got through pandemics, and now we're getting through Trump. But
okay.
let's not go.
Let's hope we
Let's
get
not
through
go there.
that. Exactly. Yeah,
Let
exactly.
let's keep it. Let's keep it nice and pleasant. Let's talk
Yeah.
about your top three business tips, please, sir. What are they?
So I'd say top three tips are certainly one of them is industry specific. So I call it the three P's in our business, which is, you've got to get started with something. Your pitch and your product and your packaging are a constant moving target. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for it to be ready. Just give it a go, put it out there. I mean, if you saw the first designs that we did for our cake product, it was, Ella did an amazing job literally on Word, and those were our first labels. So don't wait for everything to be perfect. Get it out there. Second one is again, shout out to my wonderful father. He always said to me, "Do not run your business by the morning post." In other words, don't be reactive. You've always got to be proactive. You have to be responsive, of course, to stuff that comes in, but don't run your business like that, because you've got to have days where you're creative. You've got to be proactive in terms of, literally creating relationships. And I would say the third one is, failure in any form is not fatal. It's the courage to get back up when the hits keep coming. That is more important, and that's what counts. Resilience. It's if you're not in the game, well, you're never going to win. And there's plenty of people that get knocked out. So you've just got to keep. You got to keep going. And I think reinventing and rebuilding is what is absolutely key. Behind anybody that's had some success, there's quite a lot of pain there somewhere that they've been through usually, and that pain has come from just learning how to deal with it basically, and that kind of makes you stronger. So yeah, I mean, failure isn't fatal. Just keep going, keep going. That's the key.
Lucien, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. I just want to say a big thank you to you for your time. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Infostar IT Solutions, as well, who
Very
are
much. Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And also for all of you for watching. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, until next time, remember, it's all in the punchline and maybe a Fitbakes as well.
And maybe a
Anyway,
Fitbakes while you're looking at punchline. Thanks, Mark.
cheerio. Thanks very much for your time. Bye.